So this one is our pretty kind of weekend denim Kyoto, and if you have a look at the envelope illustration, you'll see that we actually illustrated it in a very similar fabric to this one. This is a really nice medium lightweight chambray denim from Gorgeous Fabrics, and I've had this ripening in the stash for about a year. Rather shamefully, the piping contrast I've used, I've had in the stash for about 8 years, which means we shipped it from the UK when we came here. Oh yes, we did. So I really wanted to show you this one because much as it looks like the envelope illustration, it's also got a few little differences which are really useful for you to know how to do, because again it will give you more mileage from this pattern. And I also wanted to illustrate to you how sometimes when you're making something and you kind of get an idea of, oh, I might change this, I might change that, sometimes you just need to go with it because it gives you a really nice result. So this one is really our basic Kyoto. All the details are there, the top stitching, the piping, the bellows pockets with the rather groovy colour facing. But there's two main differences on this. Actually there's three if I'm honest. The first one is that I've taken the lower back off here, so it's evened up all the way around, and that makes a huge difference to the look of this. And so if you don't like that kind of long swooshy kind of lower back hem, you can do that really easily. But the main difference with this, and you can see it quite clearly, is we've used a contrast binding on the bottom, and here is how it happened. When I was making this up, I'd almost completed it and I just put on my bias here that's going to be used for the hem facing. Took it away to press it, and as I pressed it I kind of thought, you know what, this looks really good, it just looks really pretty. And so I called my design assistant over, also known as Jeremy, and I said, well, what do you think? Do you think this looks good? And we kind of hummed and hawed around with it, and the reason we were playing with it was we originally planned to do the waistband casing here in this contrast on top. We were going to apply it on top so you could see the different looks you could get. So we played around with it for a little while, and we realised that the best look for this particular version was no contrast at the waist, but this contrast binding at the bottom. And while that's not a major change, it has actually changed the look of this completely. So I really like this, and I think it's a really nice thing to do. So bear in mind, if you are doing the contrast waist and hem facing, you can chop and change them, but you really wouldn't use a contrast waist facing and a contrast binding on here to see. It's too much, it would top and tail, and it's going to truncate your look as well, so you don't want to do that. But I think it's a really good look, and this one to me is really your new weekend denim skirt. It's much more kind of dressy than a pair of sweatpants, but it's as comfortable, believe me, and it just looks nice and pulled together. So this is our nice denim Kyoto, and now I'm going to show you some more. So this one is our kind of safari version of the Kyoto skirt, and at first glance you might look at it and just think, well, it's nothing like the Kyoto, it's nothing like the illustration, and it kind of isn't. I've done really a couple of things to this to make it slightly different, because I really wanted a kind of a sort of a safari look, but I really didn't want kind of that scruffy safari look. I wanted more sort of Meryl Streep and Out of Africa rather than Indiana Jones. So I really went for this almost Edwardian walking skirt look, and the easiest way to achieve this is really just to lengthen the skirt. Just carry the side seams, the centre back seams on as long as you want it to be. And I think on this one I added about 6 inches to the hem length. Of course that means I had to cut a little bit extra on the bias hem facing, but really hardly a major issue. The other thing I did with this one was I left the pockets off, and I did that because it really was just too casual with the pockets on, but I really wanted to have those flaps as a feature. So I inserted them here on the hip yoke, which is a really nice thing to do. You have to kind of fiddle around with it and see what looks nice and what really appeals to you, but it was a very easy thing to do. Just prepare the flaps, put it on there, trim off any excess, and just join it as you usually would. The other thing I've done with this one is I've minimised my amount of top stitching. I've just done a double row of top stitching, really on the top edge here, none on the underneath bit, as you've seen on the other ones. And I've kept a double row at the hem, and I've just done the waist facing, really is to be covered with a belt. I didn't really want to see that with toggles and stuff. Like I say, I wanted a slightly dressier look. Now this one is in my favourite basic at the moment, my lovely cotton poly twill from fabric.com, and this is a great fabric for a kind of an everyday skirt, which this is perfect for. You can see I've styled it just with a white sunshine top. It would also work really well with a nice crisp white shirt, and it's just a really pretty everyday look. This is great to wear to the office, it's great to wear out for lunch, and you can do a whole lot with it. I have kept the back, the go day here, quite long. It still dips down at the back, but you can see you've got this lovely swoosh, so when you walk you get that lovely kind of swingy effect, which is really pretty. Now I really like this one because it's so not the pattern illustration. I mean, I love the original one, but I think it's always really, really good to get all these different looks from your pattern. And I'd be really interested to hear your comments on this one, because I think it's slightly outside of the box as far as the illustration is concerned. So when you see this one, if you like it, do leave us a comment. Even if you hate it, leave us a comment as well. Always like to read what you think. So this is our Safari Kyoto. As you can see, very, very, very simple to do, and a completely different look from the original. So this one is our final of all 4 variations on the Wong Sing Jones Kyoto skirt, and this one I like to call Pretty Kyoto, because it really is. It's a very, very pretty version of it. And I wanted to do this for a number of reasons. I wanted to really show you how actually sometimes it's as important what you leave off as what you put on, because this is really it, stripped down almost to the very, very basics. There's no pockets, there's no top stitching. I mean, it's really, really a low-key version. Having said that, it's incredibly pretty, and it's a really nice kind of everyday summer skirt to wear. But there's also a couple of little tips I'm going to give you with how I constructed this. The first thing to tell you is that obviously I'm using my white twill, my white cotton poly twill from fabric.com, and it's a great fabric. But I really thought with this one, it needs a little bit of kind of lining. I didn't want it to show through in the summer, but I didn't want to line it, have a separate lining. So I sat and kind of pondered this for a little while, and I suddenly had one of those aha moments, which I thought I'd better share with you, which is this. You know when you wear a white or a pale coloured top, really you should wear a nude coloured bra underneath. And by nude coloured I mean the nearest to your skin tone, whatever your skin tone may be. Well, I decided to use the same thing with this. Rather than using a white lining, which you get a little bit of show through with, and it looks dazzlingly white, I decided to interline this in a nude colour. I used this. So you can see it kind of knocks the colour back a little bit from bright, bright disco white, which I don't mind at all, but it also gives an extra kind of depth to the whole thing, and it gives it a nice sturdiness too, which is great. So this means this is going to be worn and washed throughout the summer quite happily, and it's not going to hurt it at all. The other things to point out with you on this one are I've used lace and ribbon on the seams here, just because I really wanted a very pretty kind of fresh look, and I've also used it to cover the stitching for the hem facing. But the main detail on this one that you really need to know is this. On the back, I removed the godey. Oh yes, I have. And I did that because I just wanted it to be very, very low-key, and really with all this lace and stuff, a godey as well would just be too much. It would really be, you know, gilding the lily. And this is a dead easy thing to do. All you do is when you put your pattern piece on the fabric, instead of cutting out, there's a big U shape, instead of cutting that out, you just leave it alone, just even off the hem and you're done. And you can see as well, the hem's even, I haven't gone for the longer hem. So this is a really, really nice version of this. And like I say, it shows you what you can do when you leave details off as well as when you add details. The other thing, of course, with this is it shows you that you can apply trim on top of the seam allowances rather than just insert piping. So you can apply lace or ribbon or whatever. The thing to bear in mind if you're applying ribbon is keep it very thin, because you've got to persuade it around these curves. And if you use a very thick ribbon, it's going to get all pleated and horrible. And of course, the final thing with this is when I was pressing it, I suddenly realised, I looked at it and thought, you know what, if you made this up in this kind of white cotton poly twill and you shortened it to here, and maybe put the pockets on, great tennis skirt, really perfect tennis skirt. So I hope you can see from all these different variations we've showed you just how many looks you can get from the Kyoto skirt. And truthfully, I could have gone on for kind of weeks making sample, but I think you'd have got really bored looking at them. But it is a very, very good, very flattering, very useful pattern. And all I can say is thank you very much for watching.